Hi, Black Hollywood Live fans. Today on Justice is Served, we're talking about the major legal fallout from Rob Kardashian's revenge porn against Blac Chyna and a reversal by the police in the Venus Williams crash story. And, of course, some major legal troubles for the Trumps. Stay with us for Justice is Served.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Lives. Justice is served.
Hello and welcome to Justice is Served on this beautiful July 12th, 2017, where I am thrilled to have the whole family back on the panel. My name is Chelsea Galicia. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Justice is Served, where we go over the latest and not so greatest cases from the last week with me, an attorney, and a panel of some practicing. Oh, you guys all basically practice. I'm the only recovering lawyer on the panel. I'm joined by Domonique Price, Yemi Abayomi, and Shaka Smith. I'm so happy that we're all together, but it's going to be short-lived. Next week, you two got to hold down the fort. Okay, that's just sort of the way that it goes. We are today talking a lot about follow-ups from last week. We had like a big week, and then now I'm so glad that all of us here to talk about the updates with them all, because they've been kind of dramatic, starting with the Rob Kardashian.
I just want to say that I called it. I called it. I called it last week. I was like, I said that she was going to sue him for revenge porn, and literally 3 days later, her attorney's making a public statement that they are now going to pursue charges against. Yeah.
I've missed this part.
Yeah,
so
her attorney is seeking that they file charges for revenge porn.
Oh, because last I heard that she was not planning to go file a police report, because she has to file a police report.
Done and done.
So it's been filed.
Well, something has definitely been filed because there was a restraining order issued this week.
Yeah, so the report went into the granting of the restraining order.
Oh, I was unaware of that because I was told she wasn't going to file that police report.
Well,
my highly confidential sources.
I cannot imagine that somebody elects to have Lisa Bloom as their attorney on this kind of thing, and that they're not willing to go through to the full extent of the law. This is becoming Lisa's sort of specialty. She most recently represented Misha Barton on a case like this. Well, that was sort of different, but Lisa is very aggressive, and she will.
My understanding was that on account of the kid, is that why she didn't want to file the police report? You know, the child they share together.
Apparently, according to what I've seen, the custody arrangements for the kid are like split 50-50. They don't even want to get it memorialized in court. They don't want to.
Not for him to face any jail time, because obviously now if you file a police report under California revenge porn laws, he may face jail time as well. So my understanding was prior to, they weren't going to file a police report because they were doing what was in the best interest of the child.
No.
Okay.
Apparently that's secondary.
That's not no longer a concern of hers.
Well, even still, it would probably just be, maybe she'll, if we're to come to that, maybe then at sentencing she says something, don't send him to jail, just give him a fine, and she gets her money. And
oh my gosh, why can't I think of what it's called when you get the thing on your ankle?
House arrest.
House arrest.
Thank you.
I think if it gets to that point, he won't be facing any jail time.
I highly doubt jail time anyhow.
I mean,
house arrest, then he can watch the kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
I'm just shocked.
So this was the other interesting detail that came out. Last week we were talking about the idea that Blac Chyna, liked a or some of the pictures that Rob posted.
This was actually really interesting because she's stating that she did not like the picture. However, reports are showing that she liked it and unliked it.
Yeah. So.
And when I saw that she was interviewed with her attorney, Lisa Bloom, she said, well, I have him blocked.
Yeah, but blocking someone means that they can't see what you post, not that you can't see what they post.
She basically lied.
Yes,
I mean, she lied. It was a complete lie.
Like full-fledged lie. I was just like...
Well, and in this same interview that I saw, she was asked, how did you feel when you saw those pictures? And I know for sure that she had to be really well prepped on that answer.
She felt betrayed. That was,
I think the word was devastated.
No.
She said
the word
betrayed.
devastated didn't come out of her mouth originally. The interviewer had to say, so you were feeling Devastated, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes, devastated.
Yeah.
Because if she doesn't say that, if she leaves that out, that could be detrimental to her case.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I don't think she's got any chance of winning that particular case. You know, obviously she liked the picture. I just thought it was interesting. She said she felt betrayed, but she sent him a video of her and another man in bed.
Apparently, her explanation for that, because the interview asked specifically about that, was her way of trying to get him away from her permanently.
Even if you're no longer together, that to me
always
is like
not a good
beyond.
look.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. Well, you know, Rob Kardashian has regretted posting those images. He didn't even fight.
His lawyer said that he regrets posting the
Robert, the famous Robert Shapiro, is his lawyer.
So Robert Shapiro showed up in court, but they didn't try and contest the restraining order at all. So now Rob has to physically stay away from her. So I guess somebody else has got to be transferring the kid back and forth between the two of them.
And you can't post online or even make comments personally about Blac Chyna.
All right, so that's about it for a while on that.
I just don't see the case going anywhere, and there has to be an understanding.
Oh, but if Lisa's got this case,
but there has to be an understanding.
Don't expect it to go bye-bye.
Right,
there has to be an understanding
I don't see her taking it without having something up her sleeve.
But there has to be an understanding that the pictures that that were sent to him by her were to remain private. Like that's also part of the California revenge porn law. So, given the fact that she sent these things to, I don't see how she could expect any privacy with those images.
She was also
asked that she sent her nude pictures of herself to someone that she wouldn't expect those to remain private.
Well, certainly not the
conversation
image, the video,
is that they weren't just sent to Rob. That they were sent to a few different
multiple people.
Yes, is the issue.
And it was the nature of how she texted these images. It wasn't like, intimacy or anything like that.
Well, she tried to say that just because she's posted sexually explicit pictures of herself doesn't mean that other people get to.
Oh, that is true. But these particular images, it doesn't seem to me that there's any understanding that between Rob and Chyna that they were to remain private.
And I thought it was very interesting that the whole reason why she had originally sent him, not the video, but the pictures themselves, were to show off his investment. She was showing him that she had now been able to take off her bandages because he paid for her to have lipo after the baby. And so I would love to see Robert Shapiro really spin that in Rob's favor.
Oh, of course. Certainly, showing off cosmetic work. It would not be out of uncommon to expect Rob to maybe show it off to other people. Yeah, look at the work she's done. Let me recommend this doctor.
I mean, and then he took it a step further with, if you read his caption, he was trying to protect users of the flat tummy tea.
Oh, exactly, because really,
she is endorsed by a company that does flat tummy tea.
Yeah.
And
flat tummy weight.
You take the tea and you lose weight.
Yeah. But his whole post was about, like, you guys are being duped because she is not losing this weight on her own or through this tea.
Yeah.
She lost this weight through my investment.
Yeah.
Oh man, that company might have like a tortious interference.
I know.
That's another issue.
Yikes. Okay. Well, let's move off of that for a while. I'm sure we'll come back to it at some point, if not today. I don't think that story is going anywhere. Although we'll have to see if this side of the table is correct, because that side's, or I don't know where you are, Yemi. If you seem to think that also it will just kind of go away because the case for the revenge porn part is weak.
Do I think? Well, I didn't realize that she had sent the messages to multiple people. I think that opens a new question if that was the case. I thought she just sent it to Rob, in which case I thought, oh.
But is sending those images to other people mean that if they are then publicized for the general
I
public?
think it gets to the prong of the privacy.
It takes away the understanding that these are private pictures.
If I want, I can send a private picture to 5 people. It's still private, or is it not?
I don't know.
No, I agree, but certainly, if we're looking at everything in toto, it certainly takes away from the understanding that I was going to keep these private if you send them to multiple people, especially if I know the multiple people you sent them to.
Right. I think to me, it's more so like understanding the mission behind enacting the revenge porn law was more of a, we're in something intimate and you once upon a time had access to these pictures, and now that we're no longer together, you're now wanting to publicize them. And I think it's a different conversation when that level of privacy wasn't in the relationship.
Exactly. And then given the fact that she does post pictures of a certain nature, might mean that he would believe that these pictures
would be okay
to be posted.
There wasn't
There's not. It takes away from the understanding of privacy.
Are we also taking into account like his rant that went along with the pictures?
I'm looking at this very isolated. I'll isolate it.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I'm looking at this very isolated.
Yeah.
One post at a time.
Oh, and what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you could tell that he was posting the pictures as a form of him getting things off his. Like
He was posting them as revenge.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, for lack of a better word,
the way he posted
exactly that.
The way he posted speaks to the want to cause emotional distress. Except for the fact that she liked the pictures, and then beyond that, there also has to be an understanding that the pictures were intended to be private. And I definitely don't think she's going to meet that prong. And because she liked the pictures, I think it defeats the other prong where she actually had.
If that's
Well, I
true,
don't know.
'cause that's-
Yeah, I don't know how many. If she
It's
liked the
true.
picture, or
I mean,
if she
Instagram
liked
is very
all of
awesome
the
with showing
pictures.
us these things.
What?
It is absolutely a fact that she liked it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But there were
Her
multiple.
account,
all of them, or a picture.
Yeah, her account liked all the pictures she had put on Instagram, and then those were removed. I don't think she went to Twitter, but yeah. So it certainly takes away. I mean, the case is not
Well,
going to.
Lisa Bloom, to a question that she was asked in that interview, said, well, that's sort of like saying that a woman can't claim she was raped because she's before, in other situations, agreed to have sex. So is that, you think, an analogy that holds up here?
I think that's a very stupid analogy.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't quite fit. It's just too far afield. Rape and.
Well,
Yeah,
but then,
No. Well,
No. I understand what you're saying, but rape is such an act that it requires just a different mens rea versus an understanding it's private, based on what you've already posted online. I might think this is fine. You've already shown your nipples online, so if I'm posting a picture with your nipples that are there, I might understand that.
No,
you didn't mean
I
this
think,
image to be
I
private.
think the point that Lisa Bloom is making, though, is that maybe once upon a time I was comfortable showing my nipples online. Look, Kim
Well, no,
Kardashian.
but sex requires consent, right? And so she sends a picture to Rob. It's not a same situation where you're about to have sex with someone and you're deciding yes or no, and saying it and deciding, okay, I'm going to go against your wishes. So she didn't express to him, hey, I don't want you to send this picture, here it is.
I think I could understand this analogy
Right?
if it was more so a situation of if she would have posted the picture, deleted it, and then Rob posted the picture, as if it was a repost. That would make more sense to Lisa's point as far as her originally putting the information out there and then deciding I no longer want this information out there. I don't think the situation.
The analogy just doesn't work at
fit
all.
for
But
me, at least.
Lisa, of course, smartly used a very situation that causes people to have emotions.
Because everybody
and,
feels a way about rape.
Yeah.
So.
as they should, I hope.
So good
All
work,
right.
Lisa.
Yeah, and
She's amazing, but I hate that she's representing.
And using that analogy, that's awful.
Wait, why do you hate that she's representing?
I have so much admiration for Lisa. I think what she does is amazing. She's an amazing attorney. But
She's been on the show before, and I'll
I
ask her to be
personally
back.
think that this case is so beneath her.
And it's sort of really
Interesting.
weird that, I don't like the fact that she was tweeting about even going for the restraining order before it actually happened. It wasn't like she was tweeting facts or news. I don't like the fact that she's using Blac Chyna. Her name's Angela White. That's unprofessional to me. So just the case just doesn't look good
How
at
she
all.
went from rainbow hair to bob.
Yeah, just not good looking good at all.
I don't know. It was too much for me.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
But love Lisa.
all right.
yeah.
I'll let her know. Okay, so a dramatic change, at least in my view, of the Venus Williams case.
Huge, yeah.
So last week we talked about the wrongful death case being filed against her because of a car accident that resulted in a man dying and that man's wife, who was driving the other car, being seriously, seriously injured. And at the time, we thought, or maybe they did, the police report says that Venus was at fault, and we were here trying to figure out the scenario under which this thing happened. Because it wasn't very clear.
I thought it was interesting that it was widely reported earlier this week that they're now saying that she wasn't at fault. But I remember when I come in, I was like, no, you guys, she wasn't at fault, because I had read that in a random
And
article.
everything
when I
that
was
Shaka
digging.
and I had read had
Was
put the blame on
opposite.
her.
And so
Well-
I thought that was really interesting. So I felt like there might have been conflicting.
Well, so the police report said she was at fault. Now they're saying they're not assigning fault. They're just re-looking at everything, and so they're saying she just now they're saying she's lawfully entered the intersection, but they're refusing to say anything about fault at the moment.
Gotcha. Okay, so in the articles that I've read now, I understand a little bit more what happened. So this is my understanding. So she's going straight on a green light.
Yeah.
She's entering the intersection, but somebody makes a left turn in front of her, so she stops. For some reason, the lane in front of her where she's trying to get to while she's crossing this intersection gets backed up with people. Maybe other people made right turns in front of her. And so it's a green light. She's sitting there, but still in the intersection. And then the light turns red. And the other car was coming the other direction, west. And they at first they were approaching and it was a red light. But they were far enough away so that when it turned green, they still had momentum going. And then somehow the wife who was driving must have not seen that a car was in the intersection and then just sort of T-boned at the front.
Because you would think you could still see there's a car there. So they're going to get a little bit lucky, I think, because Florida's not a last clear chance doctrine state where...
What does that mean? I don't even know that.
Oh, you didn't learn that in school?
Or maybe I wasn't awake for that. Wait, what?
Wait, no, I wasn't trying to say it like that. But I was like, you guys didn't go... Did you guys,
wait, hold on.
I'm going to stop talking.
School me. Tell me. What is this? What is it?
So when it comes to negligence and liability, some states have a last clear chance doctrine, which means if you had the...
California must not be, because I didn't learn this and I went to law school.
Yeah, you know contributory negligence.
You're Florida board, right?
Yeah. You guys know contributory negligence, comparative negligence. So last clear chance doctrine says even if the plaintiff, you can take away if the plaintiff might be at fault and that plaintiff won't recover because the plaintiff may have had the last clear chance to avoid the accident. But Florida's not that kind of state. They're a comparative negligence state. So a jury could find that she was 50% negligent.
And the driver, the wife was 50%.
Yeah, and then so if the award would have been $500,000, so they'll get $250,000. But it's kind of hard to see any negligence on Venus's part.
I don't
in the
see
situation. So
it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out, and apparently it's going to turn on some surveillance
video
that was found. I think one or two
with a gated community.
Okay, and then also there's like computer information in both of the cars
that they can download,
that they're getting access to. And the attorney for the wife who's filed this wrongful death lawsuit on behalf of her husband has been really
aggressively trying to put the fault and blame on Venus.
And at first I was really like, ugh, this
just
isn't
reminded
bad
me of like
taste.
those old school ambulance chasing attorneys that give us all a bad name. It just,
but then when I thought about
pockets.
Of course.
I get it, but if you're not, I don't know.
But here's the other thing. If Venus is less at fault, then the wife has to live with that she is at fault partially or a lot for the death of her husband.
Well, she certainly knows. She was driving, so she knows that if I would have just stopped and observed the car that was in front of me.
Unless a police report says that the crash was somebody else's fault, that would make me feel like, oh, I didn't kill my husband.
Well, I'm sure the wife just feels awful either way. 78,
Things that are avoidable.
So
it's like, I think that is sad though.
But I think so. If this is true, this may become a quiet thing that we may not hear a ton more about because it doesn't look like there's any clear winners here.
Yeah, the lawyer seems aggressive, so I feel like we might hear a little bit more about it. We might get an update.
Just because he wants his name out there. But I totally reversed course on what I think is going to happen. I thought if it doesn't matter if Venus was going 2 miles an hour, if this guy died as a result of her negligence and it was her fault according to that police report we saw, then she's screwed. But now she may not have to pay.
I don't think she'll have any liability.
I don't think so either.
And congrats to her. She just became one of the oldest semifinalists in Wimbledon for I think in 23 years or something like that.
And she's 37.
Yeah.
For her, she's awesome.
I didn't think she was that old. So when I seen that, I was
that is not old.
Well,
that is only a couple years older than me.
Pause. Let me not call her old. I think it's because I grew up as a young child watching the two of them play. So in my mind, I just feel like, oh my God, they're old.
They've been at it for a long time.
They've been doing this for
they've been doing it for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a good recovery.
I tried so hard to dig that up.
All right, shall we talk about Trump legal issues? There's a couple of fronts on this. Let's start with the voting election integrity commission thing. Okay, so we've got an update on that. So that was, this commission that Trump put together because he insists that there is voter fraud. And so a commission went out and asked all 50 states for voter roll information. And when we talked about this last week, 45 states had at least said, we're not complying with part of it, if not the whole entire thing. So now, the whole thing is on ice.
Yeah, it looks like I wouldn't say President Pence, but maybe that's a little premature. As a result of the lawsuits, Vice President Pence went ahead and sent a letter to all these state attorney generals, I believe, saying, don't send us any information until these lawsuits are resolved.
Yeah, so the lawsuits, there's 3 of them. One filed by the ACLU, then a couple other on privacy rights, because some of this stuff is not public information. And it's scary for people to get like the last 4 digits of your social security number.
And certainly you don't want to have the chilling effect of people not voting now or registering to vote because of something like this.
Yeah, so I, thankfully, I mean, Mike Pence is the voice of reason. Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, I wonder what Mike Pence has to say about Don Jr. tweeting out the emails that he exchanged with, or he received from a Russian lawyer that said, Clinton, Russia, private, confidential. This whole thing happened because over the weekend, New York Times said that they were about to, post an article about this, and Don Jr. must have thought, I'm going to get ahead of this.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was thinking. And I'm just going to not only confirm that the story is true and that those emails are real.
Send release the detailed emails. That was crazy to me.
Did he do it by accident?
No. Well,
No, I think
mindlessness,
he
but
was
not.
given notice that the New York Times was about to publish a story on it, so he was
I'm
like,
just
"Let me
like, did
go
he
ahead
think
and-"
this through? Like,
Clearly not.
Yeah, because do the New York Times have the emails themselves, or do they
think
just have the story?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because
But
I can't imagine they had the full transcript of all the emails he released. Which I just thought was such a foolish move.
I just felt like he was helping their point.
Because if he had talked to any attorney would have said, "Do not release
Right.
these, these emails," because they clearly implicate you in campaign finance fraud.
Right. So the question is this a crime now?
Well, it's definitely a crime.
And let's school the listeners, because and viewers, because I don't know about you. Did you go into this in law school too? But I've had to read up on this because we didn't really cover campaign, fraud, these kinds of things. So basically,
I don't know why I knew this, but yes, I did know this.
you did.
Very comprehensive legal education.
Yeah, shout out
Well,
to your law school, basically.
I know. I got some beef now with mine. But essentially, it is against the law to solicit information or even to accept it, to engage in the conversation with foreign nationals.
Yeah. Anything of value, and so that includes opposition research.
Because most people think it's money.
Yeah.
And it's not.
But
Information.
research or anything that has any value.
So what he should have done is call the FBI, as has been done by other campaigns in the past when they've been.
Yeah, as it seemed to be confirmed, I guess, by the incoming FBI director during the hearings today.
So does anybody know what Donald Jr. faces if it's found that he broke that law?
The cases that are out there, they're so kind of like all over the place that I just don't know where we're going to actually see this go. I'm thinking that maybe he might have released it for maybe hoping that he was going to get leniency. I don't know.
I think he wanted to control the story, control the narrative, which is sort of like the smart theatrical move. Maybe if you're watching House of Cards, that's what you do. But if you want to make sure that legally you're sound, that's something you don't do. Yeah.
I think the interesting part is that normally when things like this come out, it's prior to the actual election.
Yeah.
And so most campaigns have been suspended when this information has come out. But the fact that we're very post-election, it's like, okay, well, what do we do now?
Well, I mean, I think there's probably fines or
there's a massive fine, but
Yeah.
I'm just like, what does that really do?
I mean, can he at least be walled off from anywhere near the White House?
Yeah, well, no, I mean, security clearances, I don't know if he has one right now, but I'm certain he'll probably be ineligible for certain levels of security clearance and things like that. So we'll see where it goes, but I found it somewhat heartwarming that the new Christopher Wray, who they had his hearing today, Senator Lindsey Graham really pressed him on this issue of, if you were solicited by a foreign national, what should you do?
Right.
And he was essentially said, call the FBI.
Right.
So it's good that the intelligence community seems to kind of be on the side of right so far. So we'll see where it goes.
Anybody enthusiastic that something is going to happen to Trump, the president,
No.
because of these?
I mean, this sort of just it's going to make them dig deeper into obviously.
Because apparently Mueller, the
Robert Mueller,
guy who's specifically investigating the Russia connection, didn't even know about this.
Yes, and he said he's got no comment on it. I think he saw the way things went for Comey, so so he's not commenting. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it might lead a little bit closer to impeachment. Jared Kushner was in the meeting as well, which is very suspect. I know they're looking at him a little bit closer as well. So,
but it sounds like they did what they could to keep Donald Trump separate and apart from it.
But I was listening to an interview yesterday of the woman who prosecuted the Watergate scandal. And one of the funniest things that she said is, people are drawing a lot of parallels, comparisons between Nixon and Trump. But you know what? These comparisons are unfair to Nixon.
What?
Yeah, well, because she was saying because Nixon actually accomplished stuff. The EPA, Title IX for equal spending on women's sports and programs, and I can't remember what else at the moment, but some actually no. I mean, okay, yes, the war on drugs and all that, which is not condonable. But there was a couple of
got
things.
some bad things in there too.
But
yeah, hippies and blacks, Nixon.
Right, not a fan,
Yeah.
not a fan. But I just thought that this woman was trying to compare Nixon favorably to Trump. But what she, did say is that this is looking a lot like the Nixon scandal because Nixon went down because the people around him started falling like dominoes. They were all trying to protect Nixon. They ended up falling, and then Nixon.
He ended up falling too. I think it's interesting because while I won't diminish Nixon's character, I think it's interesting that if you really study Nixon's campaign in parallel to Trump's, Trump really repeated a lot of the rhetoric that Nixon had in his campaign.
Like, wasn't even Make America Great
Make
Again?
America Great Again was Nixon's campaign.
Did you get that from the Netflix documentary, Get Me Roger Stone?
I did.
Wasn't that crazy?
Oh my God. Okay, sorry guys. You gotta watch it if you haven't.
Yeah.
Enlightening stuff.
Get Me Roger Stone. And
It's amazing.
Oh, man.
Okay. Like, it really shows you that Trump really has been crafting this narrative for his presidency run since the 80s.
It wasn't even Trump. You see Trump as like a little peg.
He was such a puppet. But getting back to the story at hand, I think it's interesting that I think that they tried to do a really, really good job, that they knew that they were doing a lot of illegal stuff within his campaign, but I think they were smart to craft it to where it would always look like Trump wasn't directly in on a lot of what was going on. And I do agree that you can compare it to Watergate in the fact that I think as these investigations continue to go, we're going to see that I wouldn't be surprised if they get all the way up to Ivanka. It's very interesting.
And quite frankly, I don't even know that they knew it was explicitly illegal. I mean, maybe they had some sense it was not right, or
But at some point, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Well, at some point, it's never. At no point,
never.
is it?
Especially for this law and order president.
And so that's why I do think there's going to be more to come, and they're going to be moving a bit closer to impeachment, because I'm sure Trump himself has done things that are illegal that he didn't realize were even illegal. So
I would agree with you 1,000%.
All right. Yeah, so the question right now, similar to Watergate, was what did the president know and when did he know it? And those are the...
I think that's when it's going to get a little tricky.
But I do think he's probably well informed about a lot of steps along the way, because these are his children. They're going to tell him, hey, Dad, I'm meeting with this Russian guy. We're going to get some good stuff. So I think we're going to see a lot more to come.
I think so, too. All right. And we're actually seeing more about a case that was sort of handled and put aside, and then social media brought it back to life. This incident of a homeless woman being beat by a single officer in like a convenience store, something of that nature. So this case is back because originally it was found that the officer had not done anything wrong.
Yeah, no use of excessive force. The force was appropriate. But then this video surfaces where he's just repeatedly beating the woman. Early on in the video, he already threatens to shoot her. mind you, her conduct was not great.
It wasn't, but you could also tell, and this is the part that I think is hard, especially when living in LA, you see a lot of homeless people. You have to realize that a lot of them deal with severe mental illnesses, and so you could tell from the very beginning of his interaction with her that she wasn't all there. And
Well,
so
she tried to say that she was an
an
agent.
officer, and she said that
an
he was
FBI
the one
agent,
impersonating an officer.
And tried to
so-
take his badge.
Right. And so it was almost as if, what level of extra care do you assert to an individual that you seemingly know when you approach them is dealing with a mental illness?
Yeah.
And I don't know
The
that
point
our
at
law
which she started
enforcement
grabbing
does.
at his stuff on his
Yeah.
body.
Well, no, I understand that
Yeah.
was that, like, you have to use somewhat
you
of
do have to
force,
use
but
force.
there's a point where she's literally, he says, get on your stomach. She gets on her stomach. She's still, and she's not moving. She's literally just still on her stomach, and he's still continuously beating her. He has the little thingy in his hand to be able to the little zip
The
ties
zip
now
tie,
that they use, which I think is interesting that they don't use cuffs anymore. But another tangent.
So the officer was not only found to be not have exhibited excessive force, but he was also helped by the fact that he had correctly reported in his police report what happened. Like, even as of right now, they're saying that his report is consistent with what the video shows.
I think sometimes in a lot of these cases, it's one thing to read the report and look at someone and say you followed the letter of the law, and then when you actually see it, you're like, oh my God, that looks so horrible, even though you were right in your actions. It just it's hard to see, and I think that's why now that the video is running amok, that they're revisiting the
because
investigation.
certainly, did he beat her to subdue her? Yes. Was it excessive? The video might lend itself more to the fact that it was.
Well, I mean, I guess part of it was that in the report he says that he hit her an unknown number of times.
Yeah.
And then when you can, I mean, he was honest about that, I guess.
Yeah.
But then when you can look at the video and count them for yourself, then you're like, okay, maybe this was, you know, but, and he did get her medical care.
No, yeah, you beat the heck out of her. You have to get her.
Well, but we've seen
helpful to
plenty of
him-
times where they haven't gotten medical care for people.
But yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I'm not gonna give him a thumbs up though for doing what he's supposed to do. He beat the heck out of her. Get her medical care.
I think what also will be helpful to him is that, you know, you have people in the store also screaming, stop resisting, which, you know, suggests that he had the, you know, right to
to continue.
try to subdue her.
Right,
But there
then
were
I
moments
also
where she
felt-
was like not moving
not
at all.
resisting,
Yeah.
but I feel like it wasn't more so like she was doing this excessive resisting. But I know for
Excessive resisting?
I've gone to community rallies where that's what they're told, like, don't resist whatsoever. Like, even if you're just trying to ask questions, like, you're not even supposed to do that. You're just supposed to stop and comply and do whatever it is that they tell you to do. But it's tough when you're trying to comply and not resist and you're still being beat.
Yeah, of course the body's gonna move.
Yeah,
you
your
know,
body.
like, your natural
If somebody's
reaction.
beating you with a stick,
Yeah.
your natural reaction is to like flinch and to hop and
Well,
to
apparently
move.
she was
Like,
kicking, right?
Yeah, she had
even
been
while she
kicking,
was down
yeah.
on the ground. So that is also.
I would like to just say that if any of us were on the ground being beaten, I'm sure there would be some smooth wiggling and kicking all over the place.
Likely.
Just saying, that's,
Let's hope we don't have to
I
ever
hope we never
figure that one out for
encounter that.
ourselves.
But
But speaking of protest, the Black Lives Matter movement is being sued for basically protesting.
basically,
This
but they fancied it up and put a bow on it.
okay, so this is a lawsuit filed on behalf of an officer who was injured at a protest.
Yeah.
And they're trying to argue that Black Lives Matter knew or should have known that an officer would be injured, and therefore they shouldn't have held the protest.
Yeah, so Gavin Long, 29-year-old former Marine, he's the assailant that injured the officer. But they're suing also, what is it, D. Ray McKesson and
The leaders, right?
Yeah, and Johnette Elzie, the leaders of the movement, for saying that they incited this violence, and they knew or should have known that it was going to lead to violence.
Are we going to also sue Trump for leading to violence at his?
And I don't
By
know.
that logic,
By that
you should.
logic.
And I don't know.
Although it's screwed up logic.
I don't know who's filing these lawsuits because it's a textbook case of First Amendment rights. You know, they should know that this has no merit.
I think they just want to do it for the chilling effect.
Yeah, Possibly.
I think to maybe like make them back down from continuing their movement. I felt like it was what this lawsuit was.
Yeah.
Like these are all young individuals who started this movement grassroots, and I think it was kind of a way to maybe shut them up.
Yeah, because we know that we have like a wide latitude for free speech. It has to be inciting imminent violence in order for it to be really restricted.
I mean, this looks exactly like the preeminent law case that the Supreme Court decided.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a KKK case where they said that the KKK can say what they want about you can resist the government, and that was found to be lawful under the First Amendment. And so, by that same logic, to protect them, that's what still is true of the law today.
You're allowed to advocate unlawful actions. Hey, so.
Right,
It's
that's
just-
what
it's
you
sad.
do in
It's really
protest,
sad.
like a sit-in that you participate in. So it's, I kind of want to. I wish there was
I was trying to figure out if there was like
counterclaim.
a donation I could put towards their legal defense. Like I just felt bad. These individuals have like poured out the last few years of their lives to this movement, and I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah, Yemi, anything coming up for you on this one?
I mean, I think you guys covered it. I feel like we're all in agreement here.
You gotta find me something where we can disagree.
Well, I don't know if we have anything. Is that now my computer is frozen.
We did have that breaking news of Shia LaBeouf. I don't know if you guys had followed it today. So he was recently arrested for public intoxication and being drunk. But then
he also has a mental issue that they should look into.
Well, you didn't hear any of it.
I don't know.
I've been following the fact that he's gotten arrested a few times in the last year for public intoxication and disorderly conduct.
Yeah, this weekend he went on a racist rant, and so
How did I miss that?
yeah, so he told the one white cop, he told him that his wife probably likes African American genitalia and wants his porn. And when he got to the station, he said, he shamed him and said, how do you feel that your wife likes this? He was drunk, obviously, at the time. He told one of the black cops how dare he arrest this white person for asking for a cigarette, and that the black guy would be going to hell because he was black. So, yeah, I was taken aback by the comments.
A new level.
And so, but he was back on set on Monday filming.
Wow.
But he did do
Does that make him really professional?
Well, he did the mea culpa. He did the whole I'm so sorry.
He still gets
He said
jobs.
I've hit rock bottom, and he seemed to hint that he might be going to rehab at some point. But again, he's gotta get this film done. So
I'm under contract. I'm gonna lose this money.
But yeah, so we'll see where that goes. I guess we can have an update next week.
He's had a problem with public intoxication
Yeah.
for some time. I think it's interesting that he hasn't gotten help.
I
Well, it
was
sounds like
shocked
he
it
is
was peppered
getting
with the
some.
racism. So
It's something that
It's
you
like,
need to
wow.
get help with, probably consistently throughout your
The
life.
problem is that when you keep getting jobs like this, you think your life is working, perhaps,
Yeah.
and then why change?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't even know who is Shia. I should probably. But
Just an actor.
Transformers.
Yeah.
oh, okay, got it.
Amazing. Crazy but amazing.
Okay.
All right, so I guess is that it? We have reached the end of our rundown for the week. All right, so next week, Shaka and Yemi will hold it down
Hold down
for
the
Domonique
fort.
and I
Yes.
as we travel, and then in the meantime, you can tweet at any of us, preferably Shaka. He's the tweet in chief around here. But
Or
me,
Domonique, yeah.
I'm at Chelsea Galicia.
I'm at Domonique P_ESQ.
I'm at Yems on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm at Shaka Strong on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
All right, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.